Hello, Keith Rucker at VintageMachinery.org. Each year in August out here at the Georgia Museum of Agriculture, they actually shut down the historic village site, part of the museum, for the month, partly because it's just so dang hot that we just don't get a lot of visitors this time of year. But one thing that it does allow us to do is to get in and do some maintenance and upkeep and just be able to go in and work on things on the site without having visitors out here. And in the case of the steam locomotive, there's always maintenance issues and things that need to be done. And during August, we can basically have a whole month. So if we need to tear into something and it be apart for a couple of weeks and may not be able to run the train in between, it's not an issue for us. So right now, it's the very first part of August, and we're just getting ready to start doing train maintenance work. And we've got a checklist of things that need to be done. Most of it's fairly minor, but one thing that we're just not sure about, and one thing I think you guys will enjoy seeing, is we've noticed over the last several months actually, we've been seeing some steam leaking around the cylinder on the left side, on the front side of the cylinder. We think that it's just the gasket where the cylinder head comes in and covers up the front of the cylinder. We think that gasket's leaking, but just don't know. So we got to get in here and tear into it and see what needs to be done, and then go about doing a repair to it. Which again, hopefully is just going to be making a new gasket and put it on there, but we're going to tear into here and see this. So I thought you guys might enjoy that. So I brought the camera out, and we'll be seeing what's wrong with why we got a steam leak and figure out how we're going to fix it. Let's get going. So we've already come in here and taken the drain cock off the bottom, which was down here, and there's just one big nut here that holds this cover on, and now we got to come in here and get this cover off. So, and it's on there kind of tight, so what are you gonna do, just hit it with this? Yeah, it's on there good. We're gonna have to wrangle with this thing. Seems like I remember one time before this thing coming off, and yeah, let's put a board under it just in case it falls. Won't hit that concrete. All right, hang on a second here. It feels like it might come on out. Go ahead and hit it again on the bottom.
It looks like the bottom is that. I think the top is what's holding on that thing.
Well, don't let it.
Right now the bottom.
All right, go ahead and tap the bottom again. All right, I think we're off the screw. Hold the front here. And it'll be coming right off. There it comes. Yeah, there's a hole there, sure is. You know, it seems like I remember us doing that before.
I think we did, because I think you had to make long threads on it or something.
Yeah, and I think the problem is it's eating the threads away. We may have to actually pull that cover off and redo that whole hole. All right, so I don't know if you guys can see it, but this is the pipe coming out to the drain cocks, and there's a hole that the steam's just eating away right back here on the back side of it. I'll get a camera around here so you can see that. Let's see. All right, so hopefully you can see that hole right there in the that piece of pipe, and that's where our steam leak's coming from. So now we got to figure out what to do with it. All right, so let's get in here and talk about what's going on and why this hole is down here in the bottom and all that. So again, you know, we had this little nipple coming out from there, and on that is this drain cock. And this is designed where basically you can open and close it from the cab of the locomotive, and it gives a place for the water that condenses in the cylinders when the train is sitting still at the engine or at the station or something like that. You get condensation in the cylinders, your cylinders will fill up with water. If you take off, the water won't compress, so it's got to go somewhere. And so you open these drain cocks, and it gives the water a place to go. So anytime you start or stop the engine, or start the engine after being stopped, you'll open the drain cocks, let the water drain out, blow them out with steam, and then usually the first little bit that the cylinders are pumping, you leave these open until it gets all the water out, then you close them up. And what has happened is the steam has just eroded a hole through this little nipple, some Schedule 80 pipe. And steam is bad about doing that. Over time, if it gets a little leak or something in there, it will just eat it away. And I've seen it cut through steel, cut through cast iron, brass, whatever. And that's where our leak is coming from. So we're fortunate here. It's a fairly easy fix. You know, we're going to replace the nipple. We'll probably take a tap and just run up in there and make sure that we've got a good clean threads in there. I'm going to probably try to get in there and inspect them, make sure the threads aren't cut as well. I think it's just cut through the nipple itself though. So we'll make a new nipple. Because it's in this little recess here, it really makes for a difficult part to work on and a awkward place to put, to be able to cut threads or what have you, because the threads are interrupted on up in there. So because of that, the threads go pretty deep to really be able to do what they need to do. So anyway, next step, we're going to go make a new nipple. And we'll get over and get those threaded up here in a few minutes. Well, guys, we took a tap, cleaned it out, put it in there. Feels like it's tight, but you guys can probably see what I can see, and that it's not straight. It's pointing uphill. Now, I'm not sure, it didn't really pay attention before if the old one was like that, if the pipe tap hole is just crooked, or whether there's other problems. So at this point in time, I think what we've decided we're going to do is we're not going to do it today because we got some other work we want to do to the locomotive, but before we pull it out of the shop, we're going to fire it up. After we get it fired up, we'll drain the cylinders, and then we're going to put a cap on that and just stop it up and just look at it and see if we've still got a steam leak on there. Well, we went to lunch, thought about this. David King, who's the director of maintenance and restoration out here at the museum, we got talking about this thing, and bottom line, guys, is that it's just not right the way it is, and we want to make it right. So what we're going to do is we're going to pull that head off and get it over here and take a look at it. Look at it a little bit better. I've got an idea of how we can go about fixing it, but I want to get it off first and just kind of check things out real good, and then confirm my plans. But we're going to go ahead and pull that thing off. So let's get busy pulling some bolts off of this thing. All right, let's see if we can get those things off. That's the way it's supposed to work. Uh-oh. Well, I'll be all right. I hope not. I think it's came out. I think it was threaded in there.
Take them off in order. Hey, you have to do the job or not? This ratchet doesn't work real good. No, can't use it long time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Why don't you, let's see what we need to do. That was easy.
That's easier now.
So we got this off the locomotive now. I've gone over and cleaned it up where you can handle it and see what's going on. But again, this is the drain plug in the bottom, and you know, our pipe thread goes in here. The problem is that, I mean, look at this play in here. This thing, even when you get it down in there and you start getting it tight, it's because there's no support on this backside. It's just leaning forward, and this thing just never seals up. It is, and I think what is part of the problem is that we've had some steam escaping around this, and that steam has cut some of the threads in there, and it's just a sloppy fit. This isn't going to work. So, all right, guys, here's the game plan. I have talked to a couple of my buddies who work on steam locomotives and such, and we've consulted about this thing, and basically have all agreed that what I'm thinking about doing is going to be an appropriate repair to this. So I've got this bolted up over here on the table of the mill machine now. This is, of course, the cylinder head off the end of the cylinder. Here's the pipe threads that are broken out back here on the back. This is just not the way to do it. And also, after doing some consulting and really kind of confirming my suspicions, this is not original, guys. This was something that somebody did after the fact. I don't know if this is something that the museum did, or if this was something that was done to the locomotive before it ever came to the museum. That locomotive, you know, it's been around. It's almost 100 years old, so it's been in a lot of different places over the years, and it's only been at the museum for the last, I don't know, 30, 40 years, something like that, 30-something years. So here's the game plan. I've got this on here. I need to get centered up over this. So what I did is I actually just took a piece of pipe, and it's not turning by hand real easy, but I can actually thread this down in there in the mill. So, and I just line it up by moving it back and forth. So that is centered over that hole, and it's not super critical. It doesn't have to be exactly on center, but that's where I want it. And what I'm going to do is we're going to take a big end mill, 1.25 inch end mill, and we're just going to basically plow down through this and create a nice bore that goes down about the depth of this little recess in here. And that should give me a nice flat bottom and nice straight sides, hopefully. And once we get that bore in there, then we're going to make a little plug that fits down in there. And that plug will be made out of ductile cast iron to match the material of this. It could be made out of steel, but there's a lot of moisture in this area, and steel just rusts and corrodes a lot more readily than cast iron. So we're going to put cast iron back in here. I think it'll just hold up better over time. We'll drill and tap the new plug for the 1/2 inch pipe threads, and then the plug will be put in here with some little screws to hold it in place on either side, and we'll probably silver solder it in place. I could braze it. I have got a 1.25 inch end mill in here, so 1 inch shank, so I've got actually an R8 adapter for a 1 inch shank here that comes down and grips that real good. So that speed looks pretty good. We're at about 175 RPMs. And what I'm going to do is we're just going to come in here and raise the table up in this nice and slow. And hopefully it's going to just mill a pocket down through there. That's my game plan. That's probably deep enough right there, guys. So we're gonna come out of that hole. And we should have a nice round bored hole that's ready for a plug to fit down inside. So we're over on Lathe now. We need to turn this down. It's actually gonna be about 3/4 of an inch, just a little shy of that actually, deep. I'll probably just go down about an inch, face the end, turn that down to the diameter, and I'm gonna get my micrometer out and get a good measurement on that. It looks like it's just a little over 1.25 inches. We'll make it to where it'll fit. We're shooting for 1 inch, 265 thousandths. I'll tell you what, I'm just going to measure this with the dial calipers right now. We're still got a ways to go. So right now I'm just still right at 1.5 inches. We were about 100 thousandths over 1.5 inches to start with. So I've still got you know, a good 250 thousandths to come off of there, close to it. So still another 100 thousandths past. I just took my finished pass there, and I realized my camera was off, but anyway, I was shooting for 15 over, and I'm just maybe that's 15 and about 2/10. So that should give me it should just fit right down in that hole, which is right at what I'm after. That's probably 8/10 undersized. So perfect. All right, come here and put a center drill. Just spot that center. Now we're going to drill this for the tap hole. For the pipe tap. So this is a 23 30 seconds drill. I've got my pipe tap here, tap wrench. This is just a little tap follower in here to keep it all straight. And we're gonna go ahead and just do this by hand. Now, I don't think this is gonna quite go all the way around. No, I was afraid of that. So I'm gonna have to come in here and kind of jury rig this thing to get it to make a full circle. But we're gonna go ahead and tap this on out. I think I'm gonna move the camera because it's just in my way, guys. Sorry. Now we got some nice fresh new threads in there. That ought to be just right for holding that pipe nipple from here on out. So what I'm gonna do now, I think, is just pull it out. We're gonna take it over to the bandsaw, just cut it off, and then I'm gonna turn around and we'll just face it down to get it to the right length. I can control that better facing than I can with the parting tool. So I think that's what we'll do. I'll be right back. Now we got to get this down to the right length now. We're about, what, 970 right there. Need to be about 725. So I'll come in here. Get a good face on there, get a good measurement. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my dial indicator. I'll put it down here on the carriage and I can measure how far I move in. Just whittle it away. Well guys, this is kind of embarrassing, but after all that talk about silver soldering, I go to look for a silver solder and I can't find any. And I could spend the next 30 minutes riding to town, 45 minutes getting some. I'm just gonna braze it. I think brazing will be just fine. So we're gonna put some heat on this and braze it up, guys. Well, I can't say that's the prettiest brazing job I've ever done, but that should definitely hold it in there. I'm back over here on the mill now, and what I want to do is I'm going to drill and tap a couple of holes on 2 of them on here, and then just put a little set screw in there. And what that will do is it's just some added insurance. I think the braze is plenty strong enough on this, but that way it will never twist and it cannot go up and down. It will lock it in that hole. And I'll have some mechanical locking going on here as well. Let me go up in the higher speed here. So we're just going to do some 1/4 20 set screw. So we'll drill this with a number 7 drill bit. Lower the table down a little bit. We're going to tap this now, and I'm just going to do it by hand because we're going into a blind hole. I don't want to power tap that. I like power tapping on through holes, but power tapping hit the bottom, you're going to break a tap. With this set up, I can feel when I hit the bottom and stop. And that's bottom right there. I'm going to put a set screw in here now. I'm going to put a little, Loctite on it. Just make sure it doesn't go anywhere. This is probably going to stick up just a little bit, but we're going to mill it down flush. All right, I'm going to put another one on this side, and I think we'll be in good shape. I'll do that one off camera. And the next thing I want to do is just kind of mill all this down flush, and I got a face mill in here to do that. And we're just going to go across it. All right, I like the way that looks. I don't think that is going anywhere. So there's the finished repair. You know, we got a nice tight fit in here. We got this thing keyed in 2 places with set screws so it can't twist, it can't move in and out. And then we got braze around it as well. I'm a little not very happy about my little puddle mess down here. I really should have tilted this thing when I was brazing that, but I didn't have a really good way of doing it. I need a weld positioner is what I need to hold these things in the right place, but some of my braze kind of ran down into the bottom and made a mess, but it's not going to hurt anything, and it's actually out of sight. Nobody will be able to see it, so I'm all right with it. But what's important is I think we got a good solid repair to hold that drain cock. So we're ready to put it back on. So we're about ready to put the cylinder head back on now. Everything's ready to go. Just a couple of comments over here. So we had to pull the studs out to get the dang thing off, and while we had them out, we just went ahead and replaced the studs, put new studs in here. These old studs were just really in bad shape, and in fact we went ahead and got new nuts to go on here as well. So we've got all new hardware coming on here. I've already got the studs installed, so that's ready to go. I wanted to point this out too. You know, we talked a little bit about these drain cocks and how this was I thought it was an add-on, something that was not original to this train. And if you look down in the bottom, right down here, you see that little hole? That's where the original drain cocks actually drained out of the front of the cylinder head. So the piston comes up to about right in here, and that's as far as the piston goes. This is just head space, and that allowed the water to drain out. And I'm not sure exactly how the actual drain cocks connected into that. There would have been a valve that you could open and close to blow those down, but those are gone. Don't know the history of that. Don't know if that was something that happened again when this locomotive came to the museum back in the early 80s and they did the initial restoration on it, or whether these drain cocks were put on, you know, by some other company or somebody that was operating this locomotive before we got it. So the history on this locomotive is made in 1917, and it was used on up through probably the late 30s before it just kind of went out to pasture. And during that period of time, it was owned and operated by, you know, probably close to a dozen different entities. So there's no telling the history on that. Doesn't really matter. What we got is what we're going to work with. It works and it's fine, and we're going to go ahead and get this head put back on now. So we're getting ready to put this head back on. Originally, when this was made, you got this little ring right around here that seals up onto the face of the cylinder, and this was probably originally ground perfectly flat, as well as the face on the other one, and there was no gasket material used because you had two good surfaces. But because it's old, been around 100 years, we're not guaranteed that we got a good seal. So what we're going to use is just some high temperature silicone here. This is a copper based Permatex gasket maker, and we're just going to put a little thin coat all the way around this thing. We use this on other places on the locomotive as well, but this will just give us some assurance that we got a nice good seal. And I'm going to get my finger all messy here now and just kind of spread the stuff out. I don't want a real thick layer of this. Most of it's going to squeeze out anyway, but I do like to make sure that I got it covered over the whole surface, just to assure that we got good contact. All right, that is ready to go on. One thing I did is I went around and I cleaned all these holes out. Let's get a little hammer. And
your lead hammer?
Let me get my lead hammer. So before I put this on, I took a drill bit and cleaned all these holes out to get them back to size. It's going up on there. I'm just going to take my lead hammer now. All right, we can start tightening them up with the nuts now. Start by just getting them all on here. All right, and we're just going to start tightening these up, and I'm going to just kind of work around in a pattern here. I'm not torquing them at this point in time, I'm just trying to get them tight. And we're going to come in here with a torque wrench. You know, we don't have the original specifications on this. I've looked up the recommended torque for these particular studs and nuts that we're using, and it's about 125 pounds. So that's what we're going to torque them to. All right, I'm going to get the torque wrench now. All right, so I got my torque wrench set to 125. And we're just going to go around. I'm going to skip 2, I think. All right, I've been around one time, I'm gonna go around one more time. All right, that should be it. Now we just need to install a nipple and I think we'll be done. I'm going to go ahead and put our new nipple in down here. All right, I think we're done. So guys, I think what we're going to do now is we're going to call this quits for now. I'm just going to put a little cap down here on this. I'm just going to put it on there thumb tight right now, but we're going to fire this engine up, and we'll take the cap off, get it drained out, and I'm going to put the cap on it, seal it up real good, and we'll put some pressure on the cylinder and just make sure that we don't have any other steam leaks on here. We shouldn't, but just to make sure. We're not going to do that right now. We got some other maintenance things we're going to do before we fire the engine up, but that's the game plan. All right guys, that'll be a wrap on the locomotive repair, at least for now. We've got some other maintenance things that need to be done on this. A lot of them are just routine, but if we get another opportunity for a project that you guys will be interested in, we'll sure try to get you in on it, but hopefully this will do it. Another good example. I mean, we started out, we really didn't know exactly what the problem was until we got in here and looked at it, and then we just come up with a game plan and tackle it. That's the name of the game. So we're going to keep the old Vulcan running. She's what, 98 years old? Maybe 1917? No, 99 years old. Wow. So I think she turns 100 years old about January, February this coming year. So anyway, we're going to try to keep her going for a little while longer. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you guys later.